Good morning, everybody. All right, so we have finished our unit on fair share, and now we're going to talk about apportionment. And apportionment is there are two critical elements in the dictionary definition of the word. Apportionment, we are dividing and assigning things, would be part one. We're dividing and assigning things, and we're doing this on a proportional basis and in a planned, organized fashion. All right, so apportionment, we're dividing or sharing things proportionally based on more information than number of players. So our definition is we're dividing proportionally based on more information than the number of players. Okay? Because it'd be real easy. Let's look at example one for a second. Miss Phillips has 50 identical pieces of chocolate, which she is planning to divide among her children. So, how many pieces, based on what we learned in the last chapter, chapter 3, then what would be the best, most fair way to divide up the chocolate? Well, basically, wouldn't we say, all right, well, there are 50 pieces of chocolate. We're going to divide by the 5 kids. So each kid's going to get 10 pieces, right? That would be what we would deem and what we learned in the last chapter would be our fair share. Each child gets 10 pieces of chocolate. But Miss Phillips has a little change of plans here. She wants to not just give everybody a fair piece of chocolate. She says, I want to teach my children a lesson about hard work. So she decides to give her children candy based on how much time they worked doing their chores. Okay? So she decided that she wanted to give things out proportionally based on how they did their chores. So if you think about it, how could we decide how many pieces of candy each person's going to get? Well, if you think about what we could do is we could do it based off the fraction of the work they did. So if you think about it, for instance, child number 1, we have 150 divided by 900. So out of the total number of hours worked, child 1 worked 150 hours. So what fraction is that? That would be 1/6. So basically what we're saying is then that child should get, of the 50 pieces of candy, they're going to get 1/6 of the chocolates. Out of the 50 pieces of chocolates, they should get 1/6 of them. Now I'm writing it like this so you can see where I got those numbers from. So what is 50 times that 1/6? Well, they should get 8.333 pieces of chocolate. Okay? And we're basically going to do this now the same all the way down the line. All right? So the next child 2 would get 78, or actually 50 pieces of chocolate times, and then they worked 78 out of 900. So they should get 50 times 78 out of 900. So they get 4.333. Okay. Same thing. 50 times 173 out of 900. They're going to get 50 times 173 out of 900. They're going to get 9.611 pieces of chocolate. All right, we got 50 times 204 out of 900. So they're going to get 11.33 pieces of chocolate. And then here we got 50 times 295 over 900. So they're going to get 16.388 pieces of chocolate. Okay? And this should be our 50 pieces of chocolate total. All right. So based on Mrs. Phillips' criteria, each kid should get this portion of the chocolate. Okay. But, you know, if it's like a piece of hard candy or something like that, then it's going to be hard to break up 8.3 to give them a third of a piece of chocolate. Okay. So on and so forth. These fractional pieces are going to be hard to give up proportionally. And so that's where we're going to learn different ways in terms of apportionment. Now, for how many minutes of chores work would a child earn one piece of candy? Well, just to get one piece, well, there were 900 pieces or 900 minutes worked divided by there are 50 pieces of candy. So 18 minutes would be, so 18 minutes per one piece of candy. Okay. All right. Questions there. All right. So take a moment and let's look at example 2. So with example 2, Dr. Williams has 60 blank DVDs to give to 4 students. What would be one fair way to divide the DVDs from chapter 3? Well, you could do 60 divided by 4. So they would each get 15. All right. But kind of the same idea as before. He wants to divvy them up by the number. Dr. Williams thinks the DVD should be given to the students when you also consider their score on their last test. So how they did on their last test should determine how many DVDs they get. So the first one would have been so if we want to do it that way, we're going to do, of the 60 DVDs, child 1 got 85 out of 360, so they should get 14.16. All right, same thing here, 60 times 88 out of 360 would be 14.6. 60 times 92 out of 360 should have given you 15.3. And then last but not least, 60 times 95 out of 360, and that gives you 15.83. Okay, so real fast, you could say, you know, based on example 1 and 2, are there any challenges? Well, like we said earlier with example 1, now that was a piece of chocolate. So you could say, well, maybe I could cut the chocolate into fractional pieces and give out those kinds of things. But if you think about example 2 for sure, we're talking about a DVD. There's no way that I could give child number 4 or child number 2 14.6 DVDs. Okay? It's just not possible. There's no way that we could have given, break a DVD into a fractional piece. A piece of chocolate, you could think maybe. All right? So that's kind of where we start learning about apportionment, because there's going to be certain things that we're not going to be able to break up. Okay, so when it comes to apportionment, these are going to be like the main things that we're going to talk about. We're going to say the states. And the states are the players involved in the apportionment. So in this case, example 2, My states would have been child 1, child 2, child 3, child 4, so on and so forth. The reason a lot of times we talk about states is we think about dividing like seats of Congress, and that's a big thing we're going to talk about. Who gets the seats in Congress would be based on that's who's getting them would be the states. And then the notation for states, A1, A2, all the way out to AN, depending on the number of people that you have. Okay. All right. Questions there? I know it's a little blurry and I hate that. But you can see this on the Google Doc. Now your seats. The seats are what we're getting out. And so example 1, that was a piece of chocolate. And example 2 up here, those were the DVDs, would be considered the seats. It's the set of M identical, indivisible objects to be divided. Okay? Does that make sense? And we talk about indivisible is that one seat cannot be shared by multiple states. So once again, going back to the chocolate, one piece of chocolate cannot be divvied up to 3 different children. Okay? And last but not least, how it is given, the populations, is the set of n positive integers which are the basis for the apportionment of seats to states. Okay? So notation for population, your total population, the notation, they're going to say P1, P2, so on and so forth, Pn. And then your total population, P, would just be all of those little subpopulations added together. Okay? Would be our total population. All right? And that's the additional information that we'll need for our apportionment. All right. So states are the players. The seats are what we're divvying up. And then we are going to need to know what our population is, what our apportionment is being based on. So like our first example, it was the number of minutes worked would be the population. That's what it's based on. Number 2, remember what it said, how stuff was divvied up was based on the test scores. So once again, your population would be the test scores. All right? So the states are who, the seats are what is given, and the population is going to be based on how it is given. Okay? So the states is the who, the seats is the what, and the populations is the how it is given. How is something divvied up? All right, so let's look at 4 quick examples. So identify who or what are the seats, the populations, and the state. Okay? So who, in this first example, who would the states be? Mr. Gates plans to split $3,500 allowance between his 4 children at the end of each quarter. The children receive their allowances in proportion to their GPA. So the states, who is getting the money? Well, that would be his children. So the states are his children. All right. What is my population? All right. Remember, population is how is it given out? Well, it's being given out based off their GPA would be my population. And then what is being given out? The seats. Well, what is being given out would be the allowance. Okay? So who is the state? The how is it given is the population. And the what is the seats? What is being given out? So try 2, 3, and 4 and see how you do.